Hi, welcome back to the Citizen channel. Hope you're all staying safe and well. And our continuing look at, yes, we do have it, despite what other people say, because I've done a hell of a lot of vlogs on this so far. I'm probably not even halfway through of what we've got to do. Our continuing look, of course, at Manchester City history from 1880. Yeah, so if you missed any of the early ones, guys, there's plenty back there. Just to check them out if you get a chance, or pick your years or whatever. As we get to the 60s and 70s, obviously, we're doing sort of one a go, and sometimes we split it into two parts. And this is part two of the 72-73 season, let's say, season where I would get to my very first away game. I say I've been at Main Road since the mid-60s, but we'll get to a bit more on that in a moment anyway. So we're going to have a look at the second part of the 72-73 season. Part one, we'd not done great in part one. We got up to the end of November, and we were moving up the league after we've been bottom in the early sort of rattles of the league. We were after 6 games we were bottom, but we've been gradually working ourselves up. We've been knocked out of the League Cup by Bury, a bit disappointed to say the least. We've been knocked out of the UEFA Cup in the first round by Valencia. So yes, in part two, we're going to have a look at what's gone on since that November. A poor start. So we sat 13th in Division 1. Realistically, though, at that stage, even though we could move up the league, a chance of European qualification was quite slim. Realistically, it was going to be the FA Cup that would sort of offer our only chance of a major trophy. And things had changed. Yeah, Mr. Stan Gibson had a new toy to play with. We talked about this in part one, or I hinted at it. And of course, under the Main Road pitch during November, about October, November, we'd had a state-of-the-art sprinkler system installed. Yes, you go. So despite the Manchester weather, yes, we did need to water the grass, which seems a bit ironic, doesn't it, with the amount of weather? And if you think of the state of that Main Road pitch over the years, yes, we had a top-notch sprinkler system. Stan Gibson himself loved it. He could he got all giddy and excited. He could even set the timer for the sprinklers to come on when nobody was there. So he was really thrilled with it. And there was questions asked about whether players would trip over the heads of the sprinklers and stuff like this, but they had to be reassured that obviously they went below ground level, so there's no chance of that. Various questions. It was quite a unique new system at the time. And it also coincided this time with Johnny Hart got a promotion. Yeah, he was named chief coach, becoming Alisson's main right-hand man, although he'd been doing that role for a little while anyway. A busy December, busy December was not a disaster. December 1972, 4 draws and 1 win. And as I said, with only 2 points for a win in those days, a draw wasn't a disaster. It was okay. But poor weather meant we only played 2 league games in January. And City started our FA Cup campaign with a 3-2 home win over Stoke on January the 13th, and then a difficult trip to Liverpool for the 4th round. This will certainly be a toughie. This was on February the 3rd, and this, guys, was my very, very first, with my mate Chris. We went on the football special to Lime Street, missed the coach to get there, about 7 coaches waiting. Everybody jumped on. We ended up getting on one on our own and missed all the fun and entertainment outside the Cop and Anfield. My very first trip to an away match, and my very first trip to Anfield. So good memories, but that's another story anyway. But a tough game, and we did very well. We even scored at the Anfield Road end, and we celebrated briefly before it was disallowed. But Liverpool topped the league at the time, but Alisson had been winding them up all week before the game, saying they weren't that good, etc. Well, you know what we said. We talked about Alisson in part one. Sometimes he didn't. He could try. He could put his money where his mouth was sometimes, but sometimes he didn't quite go to plan. So Liverpool topped the league. Alisson was less than flattering, and he appeared to win the mind games. Yeah, it was a scrappy affair, as the first game of the season had been at Anfield, where we lost 2-0. But yeah, as I say, I think we were a little bit unlucky not to beat them on the day at Anfield. It was a very physical game. Liverpool accused City of being physical, and City did vice versa, accused Liverpool of being physical. But of course, it brought us back to Main Road for a replay. And that, again, was one of those special nights. If you're of an age like me at Main Road, those nights at Main Road under the floodlights at Main. I mean, some teams go on about, bang on about the nights under the lights and all this sort of thing, but they were very, very special at Main Road, absolutely. I doubted, I'm going to say, I was only, 1973, so I wasn't even 40, I was about 13 at the time. So, yeah, just one of those games where my feet never made contact with the Kippax. I don't think. I'm sure my brother. I think this is one where my brother, actually, big United fan, my brother, bit bigger than me, big lad. He came with me to this one. He spent half his time trying to stop me getting crushed by the barriers, etc., because it was absolutely heaving, even though the crowd was under 50,000. It's just another one of those nights. Peter Spells was around, wasn't he? He was probably fiddling the gate figures even then. And of course, a fantastic night off the pitch with the crowd, and a fantastic night on the pitch as well, with a 2-0 win from Bell and Booth, and that was on the 7th of February. And Main Road itself would hold its maximum crowd until we actually left the place, of course, in 2003 for the next round, an FA Cup match. I was there at this one, a home game with Sunderland, which ended a little bit disappointing, but Sunderland won a bit of a roll that season. Bob Stokoe was in charge, and we know what would happen eventually in that season, but a disappointing draw at Main Road in front of 54,478. And as I said, that was the biggest crowd that to then be in Main Road before it was actually knocked down in 2003. So that's the last biggest crowd, if you like. And I mean, that 2-2 draw was thanks mainly to the heroics, of course, of the keeper, Jim Montgomery, who had a fantastic game in the FA Cup final, of course. But he did actually score one of our goals. He backheeled the ball into his own net, but he'd had a wonderful game. But it was disappointing. Only there was a real feeling that the FA Cup could be ours this season. And I say we used to have that feeling on and off, but we thought we could do it. But of course, up in Sunderland, despite a brave effort, battling effort at the end, it destroyed us really 3-1. It was only City in the last 15, 20 minutes. Absolutely battered Sunderland. We just couldn't find any more goals. And they beat us 3-1 at Roker Park. And I just remember being very personally... I didn't go to Roker Park, but I just remember being very disappointed. I watched it at the night. I think the replay was on TV. Just gutted that season, because I really did think we could have a good FA Cup run. But that was it. Montgomery, as I said, will be a hero in the final later on in the season, of course, for Sunderland, as they won it and beat, I think it was Leeds in the final. So that was disappointing. And that was the FA Cup gone. So that was literally us out of everything, because there's no chance of us doing too much in the league. In March, City legend Mike Sunby wrapped up his 500th league appearance, which was quite astounding. Behind the scenes, Alisson was getting a little bit frustrated. Ian Mell had been sold on the 10th of March, just because we needed the money. Simple as that at the time. And we would see the return. Yes, we'll see the return of Joe Mercer. Unfortunately, we'll see him with his Coventry team returning to Main Road. And, of course, the City fans in the 31,000 crowd give him a great ovation, as you'd expect. But his team would beat us 2-1. Even Francis Lee missed a penalty that night. So I think somehow deep inside, perhaps we just wanted to give Joe that victory. I'm not too sure. It was an awful match for City, with 7 games played and just 1 won, 1 draw and 5 losses, so it wasn't great. Matt Alisson was under a lot of pressure. On the 17th of March, despite a 2-1 loss at West Ham, a lad who used to stand on the Kippax, made his debut for City. Ironically, he joined City from United and only made 3 appearances that season. I think the season after he made some sub-appearance, so he didn't play too much. But a guy called Tony Whelan, some of you might remember him. There'll be an image up there, Tony Whelan as well. But say Malcolm Alisson was struggling. But he did make an interesting observation, and this was in his last match day programme notes before he left the club. This was his last column in the City versus Leeds United match on the 31st of March. He actually left the club on the 30th. He said on the number of games, he was commenting about the number of games played. Yeah, very interesting. He said the number of games played by the players, and he was saying City didn't have that many because we were out of the cup. So he was complaining a little bit that we weren't playing many games. We just played 7 in March. We weren't playing many games. He said that 65 fixtures a season would be the limit for the players. There you go. So made a sterner stuff in those days. Well, that was interesting. So Alisson's last 7 games in charge have resulted in 2 draws and 5 losses, scoring 6 goals and letting 14 in. And by the end of March, as I said, the 30th, Alisson had gone before this Leeds game. I say we played the Leeds game. Johnny Hart took temporary control. And it was cited that it was literally worn out mentally and physically by what had been going on over the last few seasons. Obviously losing or pushing Joe Mercer out the season before and the lead up to it, etc. And you couldn't have a sabbatical. I mean, you remember Pep took a sabbatical, didn't he? It wasn't the sort of days where a manager could have a sabbatical and come back, even though it was hinted many years later this may have been possible and may have been done. He just went straight down to London and took over Crystal Palace, so they weren't doing very well at the time. We sat 14th at the time with 31 points from 35 games. And of course, as I said, Johnny Hart was given first team responsibilities. And it was a role even Johnny Hart didn't really want. He didn't really want that pressure. He was happy as a number 2. He was happy with his early promotion this season. But there was a brief return to form as City won 4 and drew 2 and lost just 1 of the last 7 games of the season. And we would finish 11th, so it's about halfway, 22-team league in those days. So Johnny Hart had done quite well to get us to finish 11th. The 7th of April, actually, on a side note, had seen the first FA Cup semi-final at Main Road for 13 years as Leeds beat Wolves 1-0. Yeah, so it was Sunderland who beat Leeds, of course. So it must have been those sprinklers that got the FA to put the game on at Main Road. Who knows? Crowd-wise, yeah, it was okay. Top 10, I think about 7th or 8th highest average crowd of that season with an average of 32,351. And our top scorer, I think most fans were happy because it took a lot of stick the season before, of course. With the season, we thought we could have won the league and we didn't. Of course, our top scorer was Rodney Marsh, who scored 19 goals in all competitions, followed, I think, closely by Francis Lee. So that was it, a season that started with a trophy in the cabinet. Yeah, we'd won the Charity Shield at Aston Villa. That was it. Very disappointing. Out early in the League Cup, out very early in the UEFA Cup. We wouldn't have a European competition to enter the season after, of course. And what looked like it could be a good FA Cup run failed miserably and just ended up halfway in Division 1 with such a good team. It's, again, a little bit disappointing to say the least. So we would start the 73-74 season with a manager who didn't really want the job, but at least we'd get a trip to the Twin Towers, wouldn't we, in 73-74? And there would be an unexpected return of a Scottish legend. That was on the horizon as well for the 73-74 season. But a bit more of that next time. Join me for the 73-74 season and look back at some of the other ones I've done as well. Much appreciated. Let me know your memories. Let me know what you think. And thank you for joining me for this continuing look at Manchester City history from 1880 and 72-73 season. Hope you enjoyed that anyway. Thanks for watching, guys. No, that's one thing, don't I? Please stay safe, Blues. Come on, City. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.